Hi, I'm Jeanette, for those of you who don't know me. And this is actually not so much a class as more of a quick tutorial on how you can kind of create your own yoga studio at home. So I think for most of these classes that we're going to be posting online, we're not going to be asking you to use props, but in the event that you need to use props or want to use them, or if there's a sort of like you could use a prop here in any of the classes that you're doing, I just want to show you some of the things that you might have around the house that can work as a substitute in case you don't have any of these things. I know that if Amazon is still delivering non-essential items, you might be able to order blocks or things pretty inexpensively. But if you don't want to do that, or if you don't have time to do that, these are some things that you can use instead. So the first thing, and actually we don't even really have these at March Wellness, so we're often kind of creative in using them. But this is a bolster. They actually come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. This is just the one that I have. It's long, but it's also kind of flat, if you can see that it isn't. There's some that are really round. So some things that you could use to make a bolster instead are really any kind of pillow. I have this really sad long body pillow. This one's pretty flimsy and pathetic by now. It's probably time to donate it to the animal shelter, but you can use any kind of pillow like this. Another pillow could be wrapped with a blanket, and that can kind of force it into a rounder shape. So if you wrap a blanket around your pillow, then you can kind of make it a little bit more like really any shape of bolster that you want to see. This is not super well executed, but it's just a quick way of showing you. I also found this, which is not a sleeping bag, although it kind of looks, this is just like a blanket stuffed into a stuff sack. So if you have a stuff sack for anything like your sleeping bag or a blanket that you have, you could stuff it in, and then it's really useful as a bolster. You can sit on this. You can also use it like when you're lying down. You can slide it under your knees, and it provides that kind of low back support that you might like when you're lying flat on your mat. You can also use any kind of smaller, like a sofa pillow, to sit on for comfort, or slide underneath your back in situations where that feels good. I also grabbed a foam roller. This could be used really similarly for the kind of under the knees sort of support. You can actually lie on top of this, and I've seen a lot of people doing this actually at March Wellness. Probably something that you practice in your Pilates classes, lying over your foam roller so that it supports your head and the whole length of your spine, and that can be really nice. Blocks are one of the things that can be, I think, trickiest to find around the house. So I usually recommend using books, and just one of the things about that is that sometimes it's hard to find two books that are really similar or identical, but I have gone through my entire book collection, and once again, Harry Potter really saves the day. Books 4 and 5 in the hardback versions of the Harry Potter series are pretty close to identical. So you could use these as blocks. I would recommend, if you're using them for support for your hands, to place the spine side down, because if you place the page side down, that might kind of splay open and ruin the book and also not be very supportive for you. This can also be support for underneath your spine, or even to sit on if you really wanted to. So like to do a restorative bridge pose, you could have that boost, or the block could slide under your head for that kind of support. And then, I suppose not least, oh no, there's one more thing I want to show you before we get to that last but not least thing. I can't find it, it's buried under my other pile of props. A strap is another thing that we use a lot. And this one's actually probably one of the easiest things to find a substitute for. I just grabbed one of these like stretchy bands that you would use in Pilates. You can use these to like stretch the hamstrings, to do this kind of stretch that we do for the shoulder in a lot of different scenarios. But you could use anything really, as long as it doesn't have to be like buckled together on the end, which is pretty rare that we ask you to necessarily do that. Any belt, a long towel could work. If you don't have a yoga mat at home, actually another thing I just didn't think of, but would be a great thing to include, you can use a long, like a beach towel or a blanket, or even if you just have a good spot of carpet that's comfortable enough for you, then you can use that in place of your mat very easily. Another thing that I didn't say is that blankets, we use blankets a lot to sit on, to fold them up, to roll them up. So any kind of blanket that you have around the house I grew up calling these horse blankets, and these look a lot like the ones that we have at March Wellness, but if you don't have one of these, it doesn't matter. It can look like earlier I was using this one, right? And I just grabbed this off my couch. But it could be from your bed, your couch, another long towel could work in place of a blanket. So there's lots of stuff around the house that you can use to kind of create your own little yoga studio. Here's another pillow that you could use. So one of the things that I was going to say is that if you don't have anything else, the wall is a really handy prop. And I try to utilize this whenever I can in my classes when we have enough space. Sometimes there are too many of us to really use the wall. But most of us have a wall somewhere. Even your headboard in your bed sometimes can be used this way. So to do poses like legs up the wall, which is one of the more familiar ones that we have, right? You just can sit, throw your legs up the wall, and you're pretty good to go. But there's a lot of different ways that the wall can be used, which I might maybe post a class in the next coming days or weeks around using the wall as a prop, and so show you lots of different ways that you can use it. Legs at the wall is one that we do a lot, but there are a lot of ways you can stretch out your shoulders and your back and your hamstrings and all kinds of things using the wall as a prop. And if you don't have a good space of wall in your house or in your apartment, something else you can use is a chair. So you'll have to forgive me that this one has a backpack hanging on it, but you can use a chair, and maybe I'll even do a chair yoga class. So one thing that is useful about using a chair is that the back is open, and mine isn't that way. So this isn't going to be totally perfect yoga chair style, but you can use a chair, and you can just put your legs up on the chair. And this is kind of actually a restorative, gentler version of legs at the wall that you can try sometime. So it can be basically that support for your legs, but you can also stand behind the chair, put your hands on it, and use it in the way that you might use a wall if you are looking for that. But like I said, you don't necessarily have a good stretch of wall available where you live. So those are some quick things that you can use in your house. If I think of any other ones, I'll post another video, but hopefully you're all getting comfortable at home and finding some time for your activity. Thanks so much.